Hello, beautiful humans. I'm recording this on Valentine's Day 2023, and I'm here to talk about the romantic fairy tale and subsequently debunk it. The romantic fairy tale is literally just media that has entrenched itself in our culture. And what I want to talk about today is the way that that's been really harmful and the way that new forms of this harmful narrative are seeping its way into the heal yourself, mental health, spiritual community narratives also. So, in this fairy tale of the romantic, there's a lot of narratives that are adopted, like you will find the one. You will live happily ever after. When you meet the one, you will just know. You'll feel complete. Find someone to complete you. Um, blah, 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 blah. All of those things. And it's so interesting because these narratives in romantic movies have encroached in our psyche because they hit on the most tender places in us. Our need to be loved, our need to be adored, our need to be cherished, our need to be protected, et cetera, all of these things. But I usually like to say that we don't look at shows like the Game of Thrones and think that that is reality and allow for that perception or expectation to find its way into our everyday lives. And so we shouldn't be doing that with romantic movies or TV shows either. So what ends up happening though, because we have these expectations of how romantic relationships are supposed to be, when they don't work, we end up grieving really heavily that it didn't end in a happily ever after. And then after we grieve, we still run back to the fairy tale and we try again to find the one, right? How many people have done that? I'd like to invite us to grieve differently. And maybe this video will invite you to do some of that. And it's to grieve that we have been betrayed. We have been, dare I say it, brainwashed by this fairy tale and grieve the loss of the fairy tale so that we can enter into relating in partnerships that actually nourish us, that actually support us, that actually meet us in emotional needs, that actually invite us to grow as humans. So I want to, as many of you know, if you have been with me, then you know I'm a hunter of what I name colonial programming in a lot of these narratives. And I'd like to uh, anchor us and reveal some of how colonial programming is at the base, at the root of a lot of these romantic narratives. So I'm going to pick three, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how it has repackaged itself, and you probably haven't even noticed. So number one, the happily ever after. This one I think is by nature getting a little debunked in the awakening process of mental health and mental awareness. um, but the happily ever after thing really denies reality of relating and how challenging it can be. It denies the reality of the work that is required to sustain intimacy, to relax and surrender into another, to forge and sustain connection. This happily ever after narrative is completely harmful because it does not prepare you for the realities of the hardships. Number two, till death do us part. This one is hysterical to me because it basically is saying that if you uncouple before you die, you have failed. And by failing, we're saying that you're not good enough. And that is a product of colonial programming to say that you're not good enough inherently as you are. You have to do a thing, prove a skill, succeed at something in order to prove worth. And that's simply not true. We get to, in our adulthood, make choiceful decisions about when we release one another, when we decide that this is no longer in our best interest, for our highest good, not serving our pleasure anymore. And it doesn't mean that we're a failure at all. Number 3, you will find your soulmate. This is anchored in perfection, which is absolutely a philosophy of colonial thinking, that something is going to be perfect. And perfectionism is not real. It is absolutely not real. And this idea that you are going to find a soulmate who is someone who is going to be your everything, the best lover, your best friend, able to meet you emotionally, like able to tear up the town with you, able to do your fishing trips with you, like it's just utter bullshit. And you can meet so many people that are going to be beautiful soulmate connections throughout your ever-changing evolution in life. This idea that we have one soulmate who is going to meet our everything is a false narrative and projects onto us that we're not allowed to change, they're not allowed to change. And if we do change, then we better be changing together, right? So this idea of perfectionism is really at the root of this idea and notion of one soulmate, one person for us. So we can see these maybe if they're laid out, but what I'd like to name is that we have a new fairy tale encroaching on us. Buyer beware. This is repackaged, oppressive, harmful languaging that might not even be fully understood. But when I lay it out, hopefully you see it. So, say you are solo at the moment, no partners, partner, monogamous, whatever. You're rolling solo. In especially spiritual communities, but I would say the self-healing, mental health arena will say things like, if I just do enough work on myself and I get to this point of being healed, I'm going to magnetize my perfect partner. I'm going to magnetize someone. It subtly comes in on the as within, so without, which on a level I do resonate with. And that statement is too broad and can be weaponized to make you feel like shit about yourself. The truth is, you cannot control who comes into your life and who doesn't come into your life. And what that is saying is that there is something inherently wrong with you that needs to be fixed. And until that thing is fixed, you won't magnetize. You should be ashamed of yourself. It's the same thing of you know how to get to heaven, you're just not doing it. You know how to magnetize a perfect partner, you're just not healed enough. Go heal more, right? It's really slippery. So be careful and be wary of, have I internalized any of that narrative that I'm just not healed enough and that's why I haven't magnetized someone amazing into my life. What that also does is it has you focused on fixing yourself over and over again instead of just allowing for the magic, the serendipity, the spontaneous connections in life to happen, and trust that in every connection, you're probably going to heal something. Let's be real. You often don't have to, if you are attuned to your own sense of self to know when you're out of coherency, you don't have to try to heal so hard. The opportunities come to you. Okay. The second one, the new oppressive, harmful narrative is, say you're like in partnership and there's angst and it's not peaceful or whatever, the narrative could be like, oh, if I just heal myself this much and I get to a secure attach with my partner, then this relationship will be peaceful. Then this relationship will be super fulfilling. Then, right? Underneath this narrative is a message of perfectionism, that you are going to eventually become healed enough to be perfect so that you and your partner are never going to have conflict, never going to have to enter into repair conversations, never going to have agitating moments, never, right? The common thread is that, like, if I am healed enough, then something will happen. I'd just like to debunk that right now. That's not how natural law works. Not at all. And what that healed enough narrative does, especially if you're in partnership with someone, is it distracts you from the beautiful opportunities to enter into repair conversations when they arise, to deepen empathy, to become more and more vulnerable. At these moments where we do edge up on one another are opportunities for us to tend to the really vulnerable, soft places in us and give another an opportunity to hold us in those moments of tenderness. And it also distracts us from the beauty and gift that can come with uncoupling, because there can be beauty in uncoupling if we turn towards reclamation of self, uh, new sovereignty arts. We can find beauty in that wreckage, but tethering and anchoring in the I'm just not healed enough, and if I heal a little bit more, then he'll love me again. If I just heal a little bit more, then like things will be really easy. So I wanted to create this video on Valentine's Day, but it really does serve any day of the year. If you would like to deepen with us, the School of Erotic Mysteries gets into a tremendous terrain around communion with other in rapturous union, and I invite you to join us. I'll see you in the depths, love bugs. Bachi, besos. Mwah.